Good morning. We will start our Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, September 19th, 2023. Start out with introductions. I'm Pat Malone, Commissioner.
Good morning. Zan Ojiro, Commissioner.
Nancy Wise, Commissioner.
Vance Crony, County Council.
Rick Kreger, Interim County Administrator.
Specialist. Good morning. Happy to start. Executive Director for Good Works.
Andy Place, Benton County Community Member. Alida Haskell from Corvallis Daytime Drop. Allison Hopgood, she, her pronouns, Corvallis Daytime Drop-In Center Executive Director.
Corey Grogan, Benton County Public Information Officer.
Erica Milo, Board Recorder.
And joining us online,
Jeff Van Arstal, Benton County Sheriff.
Good morning, April Holland, she, her, Health Department.
you're very faint, April.
Thanks so much. I'll work on that.
Okay. All right, are there any announcements this morning? Hearing none. Review and approve the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, I'll consider the agenda approved. Next up is comments from the public, and Allison Hopgood is signed up. Good morning.
This mic is, there we go. Test, test. Are we good? All right. Thank you. Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for listening and thank you for all that you do. Your work is crucial. This is a lot of feedback. Let's try it again. Your work is crucial, careful, and considered, and I know you're asked to make difficult decisions at every juncture. Today, I want to offer some thoughts from my personal perspective about how we might do even better for some of the most vulnerable people who live in our community. You may have heard that Corvallis Daytime Drop-In Center, where I'm executive director, was recently burglarized and vandalized. We're the only day resource and navigation center for people experiencing extreme poverty in our region. The person who burglarized the center was brought there for services by Corvallis Police Department's mental health core team, who completely understandably was at a loss for how best to help this person who's living with an acute mental health disability. We supported this guest, and then 2 days later, this person broke into the center during the night. I bring this example to bear to emphasize what often feels to me like a willful refusal on the part of our elected officials and government agencies to truly witness the crisis many of our neighbors in this community are experiencing and the work that we're doing to mitigate it. For instance, you recently voted to prioritize significant funding for a new County Emergency Operations Center, or EOC. Corvallis Daytime Drop-In Center is an emergency operations center on a day-to-day basis happening in the now. Conversations with the Samaritan Emergency Department, the ACT team, and CPD, for instance, would suggest that CDDC is currently managing the real-time version of an unforeseen future crisis for which you're planning. Governor Tina Kotek has literally declared homelessness a statewide emergency. Thus, I'm unclear why our local governments continue to ignore the growing crisis that is currently happening, and moreover, take for granted the Herculean work that homelessness service providers in Benton County are doing to ensure that the last threads of a completely dysfunctional U.S. social support system don't fall apart. CDDC, along with amazing organizations like Unity Shelter, Corvallis Housing First, Vine and Moses, Community Outreach Incorporated, Faith, Hope, and Charity, and Pathfinders, are your emergency management team, and the Drop-In Center is your EOC. The idea of creating alternative spaces for future emergencies isn't a problem if you're not willfully refusing to acknowledge what's happening right in front of us, and it's only getting worse. For many guests at the center, everyday existence is a state of emergency. Plus, there will be other emergent emergencies, and very, very soon. They'll have to do with winter warming, summer cooling, and wildfires, and the county and city will ask CDDC and other social service providers to run point, as they always do. We cannot move forward in the face of government policies that deliberately make things harder. We cannot fulfill your requests without more direct government funding and political will from you. Valuing our hard work with copious and ongoing committed funding, true political will, and tangible functional material spaces is a must. I want to be able to look center guests in the eye and tell them their government cares about them and that there really is a plan for them that will make their lives better, easier, and safer. We need more support from you to continue doing what we're doing. Let me say it again, status quo is not a sustainable model. Things are only getting more challenging. We cannot keep doing what we are doing. We need to work together to support those most vulnerable, your constituents and your responsibility. Please let me know how I can support you as you reckon with the true needs of every person in your wards and neighborhoods. They're your people too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Allison, can I ask you a question? Sorry. What specifically are you asking for? I mean, is there a tangible specific ask that you have?
To figure out how to turn this microphone back on. Yeah, I mean, what was challenging for me at the last meeting when funding decisions were made was just kind of the long, months and months of work that we had put in together to ostensibly try and figure out moving forward with a more robust space for the center to be a navigation center, feeling like we're just up against yet another brick wall. Right now the city is working on this time, place, manner sleeping guide that is a completely dysfunctional way forward for people to figure out how to live outside in our community. So policy is also not working. And I know it was just an oversight, but it felt kind of pretty personal in the last meeting too. There's a slide about if there were to be ARPA dollars, the drop-in center wasn't even included on that slide. So I just would love to see like more engagement. I would love to see direct funding. I would like to see the commissioners say, we care about this and we mean it. I mean, one of the things, Nancy, that you said that I found so powerful in that meeting was, hey, I want to be able to tell the people that I serve that I'm following my word and doing the things that I said. And like, I and other service providers are on the front line of that all the time because people ask you every day at work, like, how can this be better? Like, is anybody give a shit, right? Like, are you going to help us? And it just gets really hard to be there and be like, we're trying, but then it just never seems to totally materialize. And so, I sort of what I said toward the tail end, I mean, real political will, like, and money and spaces and partnerships that come to fruition and that are visible to everyone in our community, including the people who need this the most. So, I mean, it is tough out there and things are bad. And I also support a group of staff who are incredible humans, but I'm like, I just don't know how people are going to continue to be able to show up for this work if we don't have more of a true coordinated effort. And that involves dollars and that involves like actual government commitment. Does that clarify?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for listening.
To me, it all begins, well, obviously there's a need for operational support, but it's also the space. And I would very much like to help make a new space possible. But it's very much chicken and egg, when you're not quite ready, then it's harder to get the money going. And I know I'd like to be some of that first money in, but we haven't quite managed to cross that line yet because we have other projects that are further along. And I know that it's a daily emergency out there. And I really, really respect the work that you and your team do. So we've just got to figure out how to do it. It's not an either or in my mind. It's a plus and it's just a matter of figuring out how to do it.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I would just add that, some of when we talk about the challenges of doing this work, it's that also your witness to two different, sometimes seeming pools of grief, I guess, is the way that I think about it. Like people's lives that are really challenging. I mean, in the week before the last BOC meeting, we had someone who lost a child, got that information at the drop-in center and from a police officer, and then we called their family in real time. That sort of thing happens day to day at the center. Later that week, a guest who was really, really important to a lot of folks in the community center OD'd and died. Like, that's 2 people and 2 major deaths in 1 week. That's just part of the work. And so, there's just the human grief of it, but then there's also the feeling when you're trying to partner with government, and I know it's hard, and I'm not coming down on you as people in any way, but to just like grieve the way that the system continues to fail, and you're like, I can't, right? And so I just felt like I needed to come today and say, like, we need you all, and I really, really hope that we can figure out something that isn't ever an either or, because it's impossible to do alone.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for this time.
We'll start the work session. 4.1 monthly COVID update. April Holland, good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay, commissioners?
Very faint.
Okay,
Might
I'm
be
gonna,
on our end. I think we're working on it.
okay, thanks. I'm trying to raise my voice as loudly as I can. Can you hear me at all?
Yes.
Okay.
You're good now.
Okay, good. Okay, maybe I'll speak at a normal tone then. First, I want to thank Allison for her comments today. It's an honor and to work with her and all of our service providers with the coordinated office team. There's so much work that continues to be moved forward and accomplished, and it is so complex and so hard. So thank you, and thanks for the exchange there as well. I'm here today, however, for the monthly COVID-19 update. I'm bringing your COVID update to you today from lovely Klamath Falls, where the Coalition of Local Health Officials is gathering for annual strategic planning and retreat work. Today, I'd like to talk about current COVID-19 activity and, of course, the new COVID-19 vaccines that were recently approved and are arriving now or momentarily at a provider and or pharmacy near you. So the U.S. has been experiencing a rise in COVID-19 transmission and hospitalizations for several weeks. I'd like to start with our monitoring of hospitalizations, deaths, statewide testing positivity, and wastewater monitoring to assess COVID-19 transmission. So in terms of hospitalizations, they have increased here in Oregon, but thankfully not to levels experienced in the last few waves of transmission. The number of individuals hospitalized with COVID-19 across Oregon was 247 at last update. Last month, that figure was 173, so quite a sizable increase month over month. Particularly concerning is when stratifying hospitalizations by age range. The rise in hospitalizations is particularly notable in individuals aged 65 and up, while the rise among all appears quite mild by comparison. And again, while rates are elevated, they are not to levels seen in those recent higher waves. Locally here, according to CDC data, no individuals were hospitalized with COVID-19 last week in Benton County. Hospitals with the largest numbers of admitted patients in the state are in the Tri-Counties area, in Salem and in Eugene. National CDC forecasts of hospitalizations predict relatively stable rates of hospitalization in the coming weeks. In other words, no notable large increases or decreases are expected soon. Second, while we're seeing increases in hospitalizations, increased deaths have not been noted in Oregon, but across the US, 2% of all deaths were attributable to COVID-19 in the past week of data. And last month, that proportion was 1%. Next to statewide COVID-19 testing positivity, which is collected by surveillance at Sentinel Laboratories and reported through CDC, is reported at around 15%, which is higher than the 11% figure we saw last month. Looking at Health and Human Services Region 10, so looking at us as a region including Idaho, Washington, Alaska, and Oregon, about 13% of tests were positive over the last couple of weeks. In wastewater monitoring, last month I mentioned that several neighboring areas had increased COVID-19 wastewater signals. Increases have crested and are plateauing in most areas. So currently most sites are experiencing a plateau at about moderate concentrations. When we see, as you know, a sustained increase in the monitoring signals, an increase is typically followed in the next 2 or 3 weeks with an increase in transmission. So the fact that we're at a plateau signals that, you know, we're steady at this point. At this moment, there's no significant variant that is standing out in Oregon. All are subvariants of Omicron and closely related to the XBB variants that have been circulating in the US for the past 6 months or so. We know that these variants have not been shown to be more virulent or cause more serious illness than previous Omicron strains, but they are very infectious. Thanks to mutations or changes that allow pretty decent immune evasion. So in this time of increased transmission, many of us likely know someone who has experienced an infection recently. This is the time to exercise additional caution to help protect those most susceptible to severe outcomes. And anyone who gets infected with COVID, as we know, can develop long COVID. And we don't want anyone to experience that if it could be avoided. To help curb infection and transmission, consider outdoor activities, ventilation when you're indoors, and consider wearing a mask in crowded indoor spaces right now. Let's hold out for this new booster to help remind, refine, and re-up our immune systems. Which brings me to the next topic. So last Monday, the CDC Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices, or ACIP, recommended the new monovalent based on the XBB 1.5 variant mRNA boosters for all individuals ages 6 months and above. And I just want to take a few moments to share the reasoning behind a widespread recommendation versus one targeted to higher risk groups, including older age groups, those with pre-existing and immunocompromising conditions, and healthcare workers, for some examples. The message that ACIP put forward is that everyone can benefit from vaccination, as many COVID-19 deaths, though they are fewer than we have seen previously, could be vaccine preventable. We should absolutely be conscientious of those at higher risk and highlight and broadcast the importance of vaccination of these groups. The advisory committee also chose the wider recommendation to remain aware of real equity considerations. For the new vaccine, as was planned at the end of the COVID-19 public health emergency, COVID vaccines have moved to a commercial model. So while this is the first season that the COVID-19 vaccine won't be covered by the government, for people with health insurance, most plans will cover COVID-19 vaccine at no cost to you. People who don't have health insurance or with plans that don't cover the cost will be able to get no cost vaccine from their local health centers, state, local, tribal, or territorial health departments, and some pharmacies participating in the CDC Bridge Access Program. But unfortunately, we'll be waiting a little bit longer until about mid-October for the Bridge Access Program doses to arrive. The CDC Bridge Access Program is for uninsured and underinsured adults. Children eligible for the VFC or Vaccines for Children program may also receive the vaccine from a provider enrolled in that program. Here in Oregon, we'll have 30,000 doses for uninsured or underinsured adults at FQHCs or federally qualified health centers, including the Benton Community Health Centers, at tribal health centers across the state, and at participating pharmacies such as Walgreens and CVS. So I have a few other notes to share with you before we close. Just want to make you aware that CDC shared some messaging recently regarding hospital capacity in the respiratory virus season. We know that, you know, as a state with low hospital beds per capita here in Oregon, it's not a surprise to us that small changes in admissions could cause strain on hospital capacity. This is now a message that CDC has broadcast to the country. So even a mild to moderate respiratory virus season could cause serious strain on hospital capacity. So OHA and us here in Benton County in the health department will keep an eye on transmission of the 3 primary contributors to severe illness, which are influenza, RSV or respiratory syncytial virus, and COVID-19. And we may see hospitals and other high acuity facilities implementing masking when we see high transmission in the form of percent positive tests of COVID, RSV, and flu. These will be strong recommendations from the CDC and not requirements. And I just want to share, this is something that we've covered in sort of the exchanges after COVID updates. I recently learned that we will have wastewater data soon on RSV and influenza, as well as COVID-19. We'll share more details with you as soon as they're available, but it's great to have this added tool to help track and assess transmission. So those are my updates for you today. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Questions for April? I will. The new vaccine, booster vaccine, is that, when will that be readily available in Benton County?
Thanks for your question, Commissioner. It's rolling in right now. We have all of the protocols and procedures in place for the new vaccine. So some pretty big changes I may or may not have mentioned to you earlier is that we're going away from multiple different formulas, and we won't have the bivalent vaccines or the early primary booster vaccines anymore. So it's going to be a much more simplified process, and the vaccine will also be administered in individual dose vials. All of this is ordered and on the way. So we have to go through, as you I know you remember, there's a series of steps to go through before we have approval to actually use and administer the vaccines. We're there at that point. I checked in with Cindy D'Angelillo this morning, and vaccines are set to come in anytime now. I know that some pharmacies are already have been making appointments. I checked Samaritan's website last night. They are not yet doing the online appointment scheduler quite yet, but in a meeting a few days ago, was told that they would have that up and going very soon. So reach out to your provider, your pharmacy. Many are scheduling now, and we anticipate the doses starting to be administered any day now.
Okay, I know the county has a vaccination clinic day towards the end of the month. you anticipate that the new vaccine will be available then?
I do. Yes. Barring some unforeseen circumstance where we don't get the doses ordered, which I really don't see that happening. I anticipate that we'll have doses for that event and for many others happening around the county.
Okay.
So someone online said they couldn't hear us very well, so I just wanted to double check. Or can people online hear us, including Pat?
Okay.
Like April, were you able to hear us okay?
Yes, commissioners, I can hear you just fine. Thanks. Yeah.
One other question, you mentioned RSV. I'm not real familiar with that, but the recommendation is, I can't remember if that was age related, but the recommended to add that to the flu and the COVID shot this fall. Do I have that correct?
Thanks, Commissioner. I don't have the details of the RSV vaccine recommendations in front of me at this moment. I do know that yes, it is age specific, and while it's okay to have all three vaccines administered at once, it's probably a conversation with a healthcare provider to ensure that it's best for any individual patient or person, because it could compound, just could have just could be sore and have some after effects depending on someone's age and health status. I'd leave that up to the provider to decide.
Seems like I remember hearing something about that it's probably okay to do all three at the same time, but the research isn't there.
Yeah, there's no contraindication in the protocols for these vaccines to do that. For example, with having conversations with our long-term care facilities, our immunizations nurse and coordinator, Cindy D'Angelillo, stated that they're working with the medical directors at these facilities to determine if, taking advantage of the opportunity of a vaccination event is appropriate for some or all of the residents at these facilities. So they are having person-to-person discussions on that.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for April? Hearing none, thank you for your update and taking good care of us, keeping up to date on the information. So keep bringing us good news.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you. All right, next up, Northwest Oregon Works. Heather Desart, give us an update on what the Workforce Board has been up to. Yep, you're on.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chair Malone, thank you for giving me this opportunity to come in front of you and talk about the work that Northwest Oregon Works does. I want to start by saying that this is the first of a series of presentations we're going to make to our boards of commissioners, and so I'm asking for your feedback if there is additional information that you're not seeing here, or needing additional details or granular details about what you're going to see here on the slides. Please let me know and help me improve my presentations going forward. I won't, before I launch into the various, thank you so much. Before I launch into the slides, I just want to give a little context about what a local workforce development board is for folks who may not know. Local workforce development boards are funded primarily through the Department of Labor, and we get our funds to help train and employ job seekers and assist businesses in finding talented workforce. There are 9 local boards in the state of Oregon, and one of the reasons the county commissioners or the boards of commissioners are important is because the act itself actually requires that we have a county commissioner or a local elected official assigned to our boards to give final budget approval and they have fiduciary responsibility over our work. And so Chair Malone sits on that board of commissioners, the consortium board, and so that's our connection here today. So I did prepare, or my staff actually helped me prepare this presentation. And so we have a table of contents. If there's something you see missing on there that you'd like to talk about, I'm happy to try to answer any questions you have. If I leave today without being able to answer a question for you, I will get it to you forthwith. So I just want to introduce you to my team. We have a rock star team. Jason and I have been, and Emily, who's our accounting technician, have been with the board, serving the board as board staff since 2015, the inception of the local board. And recently we've been able to bring on some really dynamite talent. Logan Garner is our youth program director, and Ailey Ray is our adult program director. And we have Brittany, who helps us keep sane and organized in the office. And then we have 2 dedicated staff to our behavioral health programs, of which we have several. And I will show you what those look like as we go. So I'm going to advance to this screen first. So as I'm sure you all know, the prosperity, or I'm sorry, I'm going to start with Future Ready Oregon funds were passed through the legislature and approved by the governor in the last legislative session, which provided $200 million, a pretty unprecedented investment into all things workforce development in the state. And that legislation came down in buckets. And so the local workforce development boards, you can see there as Prosperity 10,000 received $35 million. And that will come to us in increments. And I'll talk about what we're using those funds for in this slide. And then additionally, the workforce development boards are in line to receive the Workforce Benefits Navigator grants for $10 million. Those grants are getting ready to be passed down to the local boards. And I can talk a little bit about what we're doing with that. So, and then all of the other buckets of funding, the Workforce Ready grants, we've applied for several other grants, and not only have we applied, but we've assisted our community-based organizations and our communities to help apply too, with just proofreading and helping with the data and stuff like that. Let me go back. So with the Prosperity 10,000 funds, which we've had for a little while in a small amount, and then we just recently got a bigger amount. We've served 35 participants, and of those 35, 21 are from Benton County. All of our participants meet at least one priority population criteria. That's part of the legislation, is that we have to be mindful of serving those priority populations. So we kind of have a little bit of an easier run at that because we are primarily rural. I'm sorry, I should have said at the beginning, we serve Benton, Lincoln, Tillamook, Clatsop, and Columbia counties. So 5 very rural counties. In fact, Corvallis is our largest populated region. We've had some fun trainings. We've done trained 6 participants in Benton County and helped them engage in paid work experience, and 4 were in forest and conservation technician related occupations. 1 was in construction and 1 was in wildlife biology. 3 participants from Benton County completed construction, heavy equipment training through the Knife River Training Center that included OSHA 10. And we've also done some training with CPR man lift operations. We also had someone complete an intermediate EMT course, paramedic training at Lynn Benton Community College. And then one in CNA, certified nursing assistant, and 2 in esthetician trainings, and 8 have obtained employment, and we expect that number to grow. So 22-23 program year, we run on a July 1 to June 30th calendar. And so this is looking in the rearview mirror at some of the expenditures we made in Benton County last year. You'll see the acronym WIOA, that is Workforce Innovations and Opportunity Act. And we generally like to say the letters instead of using them in a word. We understand that there's some cultural sensitivity around that with the Native American communities. We want to be respectful. So in our WIOA youth funds, we spent approximately $49,500. Well, we did spend that in Benton County. WIOA adult, 46,000 plus, and SYEP, which is State Youth Employment Funds, and we spent 10,500 in Benton County. We have the Prosperity 10,000 funding. We spent 66,300 in Benton County. Work Experience, 25,000 plus. And YDD OYP, those acronyms stand for Youth Development Division and Oregon Youth Employment Program, a total of $105,000. We've had a lot of great success with the youth in Benton County. We're going to show you a video in a little while to demonstrate that. So a total of $304,000 from our various funding streams into Benton County, and a lot of successes to accompany that. In the current 22-23 program year, numbers are smaller because we're in, oh no, these are still in the rearview mirror last year, but these are the participant numbers. On the job training, we've had 7 go through. OST stands for Occupational Skills Training, which is really just classroom training. So we work very closely with Lynn Benton Community College. The Youth Development Division and OYEP, we had 66 participants. And then Work Youth Experience, 15, regular work experience with other discretionary state dollars, 8, and a total of 113 participants served in Benton County last year. That number will increase this year because we have additional ARPA funds from that wheel I showed earlier. Some of the highlights for this current year, PY, that's July 1 to present day. We're not quite through the first quarter of the program year, but we've enrolled 8 new participants, and these are Benton County stats. 5 have gone through classroom training and some real diverse training too: welding, IT, nail technician, esthetician. I think we had a tattoo artist go through tattoo training. These funds are fairly flexible, so we don't have to have folks on an eligible training provider list like we do with the WIOA funds. And we've also had 1 participant from a previous classroom training become employed after receiving a CDL. We have a lot of luck with CDL trainings across the 5-county region. So youth specifically, the Youth Development Division re-engagement grants, what those did was they took funds and went and worked with the school districts and out of school youth. Youth have been disconnected from school and have not yet achieved their GED or diploma. And we just smother them with services. We help pay for anything they need to prep for a GED class. If they need shoes, if they need, a lot of what we did was incentive work. So we would buy prepaid Visa cards. And if a youth were to take a training class or a test GED, so they're just testing or training, what am I trying to say? They're practice. Thank you, Commissioner. They take a practice test, that's a $50 gift card. So they want to go back and do another one because that's money in their pocket, which a lot of them, these are highly barriered youth that this program serves. So we're really excited about that. So 55 participants and 55,000 in combined direct support to youth for their wages. We would help them if they wanted to work while they were in the program, we would help pay their wages. And then OYEP is Oregon Youth Employment Program funding that comes down from state general funds. And that's a fun one as well. It's not focused so much on the GED achievement, but it's focused on wages and work readiness. So helping individuals go through work experience, CTE program, we pay the tuition and wraparound services. So we have 11 participants in Benton County doing that work, and that's about a $50,000 price tag. And we have one of the participants of the CTE training in the video we're going to show in a minute. And this is it. Now, this is why we do what we do. This is the fun part of the job.
Hi, my name's Jackson Galt, and I'm a student at LBCC. I'm in the Machine Tool Technology program. I'm in the Cooperative Work Experience program, and I'm also a recipient of the OYEP grant. The OYEP grant has been pretty darn helpful to me because as a student coming out of LBCC or just any CTE program, you are pretty strong when it comes to knowledge, but you don't have much experience in the field. So when you get into the workplace, you don't have much leeway normally to make mistakes and learn and just really take your time to fill in that experience that you need under your belt. The OIP grant has allowed me to have a 200-hour internship at a company called King Machine in Corvallis, Oregon, and that opportunity allowed me to really grow my experience as a machinist, and that has helped me get into the workplace that I currently am in today, where I've actually been able to start doing programming and really taking my career up to the next level. This funding has taken a lot of stress out of what seemed like an impossible feat, and really almost made it just happen without, I don't want to say trying, but it was seamless and really effortless to get the experience I need to really start growing in a machine shop. The $5,000 towards my schooling has helped me just feel a lot less like burdened with school, I suppose, and I feel a lot more free to be able to just like enjoy my life while I'm a student, and it's really been a good opportunity. I graduate this summer. I will be graduating with a 2-year machine tool technology degree. I am also a SolidWorks certified associate. And on top of that, I would also be getting a 1-year certification just by completing the 2-year certification. I would love to see this funding continue to other students. It was a really big help to me, and I don't know if I would have been able to complete my degree without it. And I think that there are plenty of other individuals in my position, or maybe even a worse off position, that really do need this funding. And I see that in my industry that there's a pretty big disconnect between industry and the educators of my industry, and I just want to take a second to thank all the individuals who went out of their way to come and help me without asking, and really made this all possible. And really, I am here today because of the people who have helped me.
Hi there, my name is Amy Burby, and I'm the Faculty Department Chair for the Cooperative Work Experience Program at Lynn Benton Community College. I have the honor of working with Northwest Oregon Works to help fund, through OYEP funding, our career technical education students. We have an event at LB called CTE Signing Day, where we recruit and help students enter and celebrate their entry into the career technical education field. Because we do this event and have a large quantity of students entering our fantastic CTE programs, we had 10 students that were recipients of the OYEP funding because they met the criteria, the 14 to 24-year-old in manufacturing in Benton County. This changed so many lives of our 10 students. We had students that, all of our students received a 200-hour funding that was paid at $15 an hour. And we had students everywhere from Junction City in an automotive capacity working at Point S, to students working at Key Machinery and Corvallis, to Selmet in Albany doing metals. So the manufacturing sector has benefited greatly from this investment, but more so our students. This helped the financial burden and the ability for our students to succeed in their education, as well as having the experiential learning that was so beneficial for these students to get cooperative work experience, that gave those students credits towards their degree and gave them on-the-job, real-world experiential learning that these students have greatly benefited from. Some students have been offered jobs to continue after this program ends, and it absolutely changed these lives. So thank you for all that made this happen, and we hope that continuation of funding like this for our students will be available for tomorrow's group as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, so that was a look at some of the benefits that our youth funding provided. We also received originally a how-to grant, that's Healthy Oregon Workforce Training Opportunity through the Oregon Health Authority. That was a $750,000 grant that allowed us, for a 3-year period, that allowed us to establish and stand up a behavioral health program that's been so successful that several CCOs in our region, including Samaritan CCO and Colpack CCO up in the northern 3 counties of our region, have invested to continue these programs to help them expand into and to continue. So I think right now we also have let me go back to this one just for a second. I just want to show off the fact that the team, Courtney and Adrian, you saw on the prior slide, organized and put together a behavioral health career fair that was Friday, September 8th. We had a great turnout of employer partners in the behavioral health field, including a handful from Benton County. It was really successful on the employer front. And we realized we need to do a little bit of a different marketing so we can get in some younger job seekers, but it was overall a great event. Benton County how-to program specifics. 13 are participants through the Samaritan CCO, which is IHN. Then 8 of the how-to participants reside in Benton County. We also partner with Lynn County on almost all of our initiatives because we share a labor shed and a community college. So that just makes for good neighbors. Our employer partners here in Benton County, you can see them listed there. A majority of them, I believe, were at this career fair last week. So future plans for Benton County, we've got a couple things in the works. This is by no means all of what is lies ahead for Benton County with regard to the workforce board. We're working with Lynn Benton Community College right now on several cohorts of phlebotomy and childcare. And the childcare initiative has to do with training individuals who are interested in becoming home care facilities, helping them get their business license, get whatever they need to succeed in licensure so that we can open up more childcare possibilities because, as we all know, Oregon is a childcare desert. And then a phlebotomy cohort to get some phlebotomists through, so that would pay for their tuition costs and some other wraparound services. And then we also have a partnership going right now. Gabe Gruhl is our labor representative on the board with the Benton County Fire Department. And he is working closely with Ailey on our team to put together a training for paramedics and EMTs, for which we've heard there's a huge shortage, actually all over the place, but we're starting in Benton because of Gabe's tie to the board. We're lucky to have him helping us consult on that. And that's all I brought. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to take your input and feedback on the presentation itself if there's something that's missing, because like I said, we're going to start doing this in all of 5 of the counties. And so I will like to learn from you on what we can do better.
Questions for Heather?
Yeah, I think I will. I wanted to thank you, first off. Given my role this year as the board chair for the Community Services Consortium, I see into quite a lot of this because of all of the interdependence of funding across the different organizations working with youth and adults on employment issues. But it's really helpful to see the breakout of Benton County folks that are served in programs. And it looks like over the years, from my perspective, there's been a diversification of funding and more funding that has facilitated local partnerships. I'm really grateful to see the extent of collaboration with LBCC, for instance. And I'm hoping that, and with Samaritan, IHNCCO, I'm hoping that those partnerships will continue to evolve, because I think a lot of people feel like they fall through between the cracks because we have parallel programs to try and do the same things. So no wrong door is always my aim. And I'm just glad to see the increased partnerships.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. And it is the diversification of funding that helped us do that. So.
Let's see, on the $200 million state funding that you mentioned early on, in a bunch of different buckets, but what's the timetable on that? And is this, you see this as one-time funding, or is there some indication that this will continue in the future?
So that's a great question. The timing goes, these funds go through 2026. So we're not in a rush to the finish line to get them spent. We can do so thoughtfully and intentionally. As far as a one-time deal, that's on everybody's minds right now. I can tell you that the Oregon Workforce Partnership, which is the association of all 9 directors, local directors across the state, worked very hard to develop a bill, Senate Bill 623, in which case at which time we are trying to get an overall evaluation of the public workforce system and its advocacy. Then we proposed another bill that was then swept into a bigger bill with the HEC that has all of those wheels. But the Prosperity 10,000 portion of that wheel is something that we would like to see continued, because we think that it's going to be extremely impactful. We're starting to tell our stories now. So what ideally, in a perfect world, if I had a wish list or a genie in a bottle, I would ask that a portion of that funding be put into the governor's permanent biennium budget so that we can see these, we don't have to build up programs and have them fall, even though that is a tragedy in the grant funded world. If something's really dynamically working, we would love to see further investments. So that's on my wish list, Commissioner Malone, but you know, there's no guarantees, obviously.
You mentioned CDL training, and I know a couple of years back, Tillamook Community College, I think, stood up a program. If somebody from Benton County wanted CDL training, where would they get that?
No, that's a great question. I thought there might be a Lincoln County or a Lynn Benton Community College training activity happening. I have to check on that. I know that the simulator that Tillamook Bay has been shared with Clatsop County and Lincoln County. So if there isn't something specific in Benton County, and that's something that I could definitely research, because that's an industry that's not going away. You know, they're always going to need to move stuff from one place to another place. So I would say, if you'll give me a chance to check on that for Benton County specific, Otherwise, Benton County residents could travel to Lincoln County and get the training there, which is not a great answer.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Sure. Can you remind me how often you come present to us or send us reports?
So embarrassingly, not very often. In fact, I'm here because Commissioner Malone said, come and present to our board. And we've had a similar request from Clatsop County Commissioner Pamela Webb. And so we thought this is something we should be doing on a regular basis. And so quarterly, if that's a good cadence for all of you, we'd like to start doing that. Data doesn't change too much month to month, but quarterly you can get a snapshot of what's happening. So not great in the past, but hopefully improving going forward.
Okay, thank you. That helps. I was just thinking of feedback, like, the level of information will just depend on how often you come. And I would be happy to, get emails with updates too, if that's, works for you, whatever you think.
Yes, I'm happy to do that too. And if there's something you need, information you want from us, something you're hearing in your community amongst your constituents, and you have questions about how, if the local board's involved or do we know about it, sometimes we get our best information from folks who are on the ground. And when you cover 5 counties, it's hard to be all places at all times. So if there's anything you hear about that we can help with, please let us know.
All right. Well, thank you for the update, Heather, and look forward to more regular reports on the workforce board activity.
Great. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. All right. We've got a 30-minute next item. Do we want to take a short break at this point? All right. A 5-minute break. And then next up is Tracy Martineau and onboarding of the incoming shiny new county administrator. Well, we will get back to our meeting. 4.3, plan for onboarding incoming county administrator, Tracy Martineau. Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. I thought today what I would do is give you a current update on the status of onboarding Rachel McEnany, and as well as give you an opportunity if you have any questions that you that might come up for you, and also remind you that I'm open to any input that you have in terms of any specifics or her onboarding. So with that, I'll just kind of launch into what we've done so far. I've been working with board staff, initially with Maura, and then after Maura left with Mariah, and also with Rick Kreger's admin assistant, Lindsay Goodman. They have been great at helping to get Rachel set up in terms of making sure that she has all the equipment that she needs, laptop, keys, et cetera, things like that. We've got her scheduled and calendar set up for the first several weeks of her time at Benton County. Initially, we'll be focusing on her internal contacts and meet and greets. And then after the first few weeks, probably into November, start expanding that circle out into city managers, council of governments, and some of those other partnerships, community partnerships, that she has an opportunity to interact with them and meet. Let's see. We're going to do a casual reception Monday afternoon, which is her first day, for employees here at the Calbulla building. I believe you all know that her 80-year-old father is going to be traveling with her, and he's really excited to meet the people that she's going to be working with. She'd originally thought that he would be spending the first week here with her and then going back the following week, but due to some family demands, he's going to have to go back on the Tuesday after she starts. So that's why we moved the reception up to a Monday afternoon. But it should be just very casual and hopefully fun, and give our employees a chance to interact with her. as well. We've got her connected to the Microsoft 365 suite, so she has access to Teams. We've set up Teams channels for her. We've already set her up with training on some of the basics of county systems through the onboard portal in NeoGov. And so I think that things are shaping up pretty well for her to have a very positive onboarding experience and be able to focus once she finally arrives here at Benton County. And again, open to any questions that you might have or any input that you would like to give me right now.
I know that with the new commissioner onboarding, things have gotten smoother and smoother, and there have been department by department briefings, and I'm sure that you've got something like that set up as well.
The initial meetings with department directors that are set up are, I think they're for 45 minutes, and these are more casual. These are going to be just a kind of a relationship building opportunity. And then I believe there are also one-on-one meetings that are to follow in the weeks to come, where I would expect that she'll give the department directors, set out what her expectations are for them to be able to give her an overview of their business and what their current priorities are.
And I'm also assuming that the interim county administrator Krager will have a list, or if not a portfolio, of ongoing issues.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Ogerow. Just to kind of follow up with what Tracy said, initially we'll have those meet and greet meetings for Rachel, but we also want to give her the opportunity to sort of set her own kind of time schedule. But we've made our staff available to her already to schedule any of those in advance. So part of it will be just trying to figure out, what does Rachel want to do in terms of her monthly one-on-ones. And then in addition, both Tracy and I will be meeting with, we've had time set up with Rachel to help her in terms of the list of things that we want to be able to just update on her, and also to be a resource for her. So if she has questions, just general thoughts, that we can be available. So I certainly will be spending some time with her to make sure she just gets everything that she needs.
I provided Rachel with a copy of Joe Kirby's leadership policies that I think everyone found very, very useful. And so once she has a chance to, review those and really dive into those, as well as get a little bit acclimated to Benton County, I know she's going to be wanting to set up some time with you to review those policies. So didn't want you to think that we'd forgotten about systemizing that into the schedule.
And I guess one last thing I would add, commissioners, we have set up regulars with each of you. You should all have those on calendars. Tracy Price said that, and I missed it, but we have all those taken care of.
Tracy, did you say for get to know you meetings and one-on-ones that they were going to be virtual or in person, or?
Right now they're set up with, I believe, with a virtual option, but clearly the best case scenario is to do those in person.
Sure, that I would really, prioritize being in person if at all possible, and just highlight the importance of getting out to all the different departments and seeing people face to face.
Thank you.
And Rachel's with us, so we should probably not talk about her in the third person.
Hello there.
I'm listening.
And the father has 2 speeches on the 5th. That's why he's coming back.
My dad is in the background visiting, so he wants you to know he has 2 speeches that week. So I'm really looking forward to meeting you guys, and absolutely, I agree with the commissioners in person whenever we can. So
Well, we're definitely looking forward to your presence on the West Coast. So,
yeah, definitely.
I guess my question or concern, it's been more than 6 months since Joe Kirby's been here, and I know he was a prodigious note taker, and just all the issues and projects that we have in process. And I think I've heard the term warm handoff, making sure that as much of that information that went from Joe to Suzanne and now Rick gets handed off to Rachel so that kind of minimize the things that we drop. That's going to be a challenge.
Yep.
I believe both Suzanne and Rick have added to those notes as well. And Mariah has helpfully scheduled desk time for Rachel so that she has some thinking time as well as some time to review those notes and respond to email and things built into her schedule.
And Commissioner, I will say, first of all, I am not the note taker Joe Kirby was. So, but I think between Suzanne and myself, we have tried to keep as much information as we can in writing so that Rachel has that in front of her. Part of my objective here in this 30-day stint was to meet regularly with folks so that I can also gather some of the information from all the directors as well as each of you. So I think we've done a pretty good job in terms of documenting. Obviously, there's always going to be things that get missed, but certainly we will, as a team, work around with Rachel to help her with anything that maybe falls through the cracks.
Thank you. What else?
Well, I think that's it for a current status update. Again, if there's anything that comes to mind for you that you want to make sure that she should become acquainted with in the first, let's say 30 to 60 days, please reach out to me or Mariah, and we'll make sure that we get that coordinated with Rachel.
Thanks, everyone.
2 weeks, Rachel.
I know, it's crazy. I'm really, really excited to be there. So
Can the dog come to the
yes, and my
reception?
dog will be there too. So
Can
you'll
it
get to
come
meet
the
my dog.
reception?
Okay.
Well, safe travels, and I heard something about you're going to do a travel log.
We're gonna try.
Of your journey. So
I don't know how entertaining I'll be, but I will definitely looking forward for especially the employees who get to know me a little bit better. And yeah, but I'm excited. So really looking forward to the opportunity. Thank you.
all right. See you soon.
I'll be listening.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Tracy, and appreciate the effort. This was not an ideal transition, but as far as I can tell, we're doing what we need to be successful.
Thank you. Happy to do this kind of work. And again, I just want to give props to both Maura and Mariah and Lindsay for them, all three of them jumping in to do whatever it takes to make sure this is a smooth process.
Thank you. All right, next up, our consent calendar. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Consent calendar is approved. Next up, item number 6, proclamations proclaiming September 2023 as National Suicide Prevention Month. Eric Bowling, please come up and read the proclamation.
Good morning. The month of September 2023 is National Suicide Prevention Month, when millions of people around the world join voices The month of September 2023 is National Suicide Prevention Month, when millions of people around the world join voices to share a message of hope and healing. Suicide is a devastating tragedy that leaves loved ones with unanswered questions and families missing a piece of their soul, wishing for more time together. While anyone can be impacted by suicide, we recognize that some populations experience more negative social conditions and higher rates of suicide or suicide attempts. This includes veterans, people who live in rural areas, sexual and gender minorities, middle-aged adults, people of color, and tribal populations. Suicide and suicidal behavior are influenced by negative conditions in which people live, learn, work, and play. Acknowledging suicide's impact on our communities and addressing these negative conditions can help prevent suicide and suicide attempts. Benton County is committed to addressing suicide as a public health issue and urges all residents to play a role in suicide prevention and promoting mental wellness. The benefits of preventing and overcoming mental health challenges, suicide attempts, and loss are significant and valuable to individuals, families, and our community. We must encourage relatives, friends, neighbors, coworkers, and providers to recognize the signs of a problem and guide those in need to appropriate services and support. In addition to community support, Benton County residents should be able to access high-quality mental health support services that lead to a healthy life. Every day in Benton County, people make use of behavioral health services and community supports. Suicide Prevention Month allows millions in our nation to raise awareness, build resiliency, and find hope. Now, therefore, the Benton County Commissioners proclaim that September 2023 is Suicide Prevention Month. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And, do I hear a motion?
I would move to proclaim September 2023 as National Suicide Prevention Month in Benton County, proclamation number 2023 -016.
Second.
All in favor of the proclamation, say aye.
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 Thank you, Eric.
Motion carries. On the agenda, next up is a public hearing, but we will have that at approximately 11 o'clock. So we'll go into new business, 8.1, request to apply for the Oregon Heritage Grant. Jesse Ott and Inga Williams, please come to the table.
Thanks. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
We have three items actually to talk to you about this morning. The first item is the Oregon Heritage Grant. And that is a grant that comes from the State Historic Preservation Office. And it is sent out twice a year, or every 2 years, so it's a biennium. So this is our one chance this year to grab it. And we really hope that we can get the funding that we are requesting. Jesse will go into that in more detail as to what we're asking for. The Oregon Heritage Grant is to preserve, develop, or interpret Oregon's cultural heritage. And we've chosen the Fort Huskins site as a heritage resource of statewide significance. The other item, which Nancy Taniguchi, who is the Historic Resources Chair, will talk about, to give you a brief update as to what the Resource Commission has been working on, the projects that they hope to accomplish in the coming years. And those two items come together. Actually, the second item led into the first item. It's they're backwards. It doesn't matter. The third item, which is not on the agenda, is a request for the commissioners. We hope to appoint a liaison to the Historic Resources Commission to help us plan this project that we're working on and help us work through the projects that the commission would like to go through in the next few years. So we hope that you can give us a liaison to help us work through these. And go ahead, Jesse.
All right. Well, thank you, Commissioners. So for the last several months, I've been working a lot with the Historic Resource Commission and Darren and Inga and our friends over there. We've got a few in the audience today. They've been helping me kind of figure out what to do with all of our historic resources, looking for assistance on really giving each one of our buildings a job. to do. And so we started talking about a couple projects we have to do that every year. Typically, we do an event out at Fort Hoskins with Afrana, and we'll have reenactors and various groups. And during History Month this year, we had a band out there and tours of the commander's house. And, we started talking about how, since we're going to do that anyway, why don't we partner up and do something bigger and try to expand the funding that we have for it. And so we're really proposing sometime kind of a Kings Valley Day to promote Fort Hoskins, the Bazell Memorial Forest, and just some of the communities out there in Kings Valley. And so we started brainstorming and came up with, something that could be really interesting, a Friday, Saturday type event where we could get school kids out there, potentially just a Friday. We'd have to kind of look at all the different partners, but we've been talking with Native tribes, our reenactor groups, teachers from the Tarweed School, and many more. So we'd like to include really the King Valley Community Trust, PD Women's Club, anyone we can really get out there to help us. And so the funds for this grant would help us produce the event, give us about a year in advance to prepare. And the great thing about the Oregon Heritage Grant is we can also combine that with some capital infrastructure needs that we have out there that we're in the progress of working on. So we have a subcommittee on the park board working on improving the signage at Fort Hoskins and kind of reevaluating it and potentially replacing some of the elements, potentially take some of the tribal informational signs off the parade ground and moving them into a kind of a more special area. Really highlighting the native restorations we do out there and combining that with sort of the, traditional tribal management of lands. And so far we've been, our ideas are to have storytellers out there. We've been talking with the tribe about tribal storytellers, potentially see if we could ask the King family descendants if they would like to give any kind of oral history. So we have a lot of great ideas, but this grant would help fund the event and help pay for the signage and potentially help pay for some of the work on the commander's house that we've been doing. We're doing a lot of work to preserve the chimney and stabilize that structure. And so, thinking about LBCC or Tarweed School, potentially have a group out there to do some of those type of historic preservation elements that they have classes for. So this would be just a really exciting, we've got, Adrian from Conundrum House back there and coming up with some really creative funding ideas. And, so we could make this really fun and make it really special for Kings Valley and the smaller communities out there. So that's what we hope to do. We're pulling our budget together. The grant awards, typical awards are $3,000 to $20,000. And so we're getting our budget. Minimum, we would put in about $3,000 worth of general fund money for the event. And I think this will be a great way to expand those funds since we want to redo the signage and work on the commander's house and do our event anyway.
So have you decided on what the ask will be?
We're close. We're just kind of finalizing some budget numbers for the commander's house. So I think it would probably be in the realm of potentially matching 50% of maybe about $10,000.
Okay. Thank you.
10,000 total or 10,000 each?
No, 5,000 from Benton County and 5,000 match would be, that's our estimates thus far, but it's just, trying to figure out the materials that we need for the commander's house and that type of thing is the last step. So just firming up those numbers before we apply.
Okay. I'm familiar with some of the, usually in September in the fall celebrations at Fort Hoskins, and this seems like a real opportunity to take advantage of that, showcase what we have, and maybe make some progress on the updating the facilities. I would point out that I think every day is Kings Valley Day. Maybe that's just me.
For me too. We've got a lot of facilities out there, so I agree. And, we'd really appreciate any connections, anybody you think we should reach out to or for an event like this, that would like to be included potentially as we move forward.
There aren't a lot of organizations there, but I think of the fire department and the fire department and school are the highlights of active organizations.
I'm happy to make a motion. I move to authorize natural area parks and events to apply for the Oregon Heritage Grant.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Thank you, Commissioners.
Motion carries. You had 2 and 3.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. As has already been mentioned, I'm Nancy Taniguchi. I'm Chair of the Benton County Historic Resources Commission. And what you have just heard here are the plans for one leg of our three-legged stool. We are doing everything we can to stress the value of historic preservation in our county. And that's what this very colorful paper describes for you. I certainly will not read it to you, but I want to point out that our purpose is to enrich the present, inspire the future, and foster a sense of community. So the Fort Huskins celebration is just one of those legs. Historic Preservation Month of May, it's the National Historic Preservation Month. That has always been one of the legs, and obviously you can't hold up a stool with one leg. And I'd like to thank some of the commissioners who came to our awards ceremony in the past. I'd love to see more people at more events, including all of you. Finally, we are going to be developing a historic preservation and trades program, probably in the spring, and Adrian Fritz at the back has already contacted Northwest Oregon Works. This is an organization that does the on-the-ground kind of activities, and they've already cooperated with LBCC, so they have a working relationship. The entire purpose of all of this is to help increase awareness of the values, historic values that we have here in Benton County, to preserve them, to make the most of them through these various headings: education and promotion, preservation, safeguarding, advocating, and networking within the community. So that's what we're all about. That's why we want a liaison with the commissioners, so that you're more aware of the specifics, like Jesse just described. We've been very busy. We also have been able to get a mentor to help us with the 5 properties that we have, because now we also have the Swick House in the area that is designed for the Justice Center that belongs to the county. And as Jesse mentioned, we need purposes for all of the buildings that the county owns. So we have a mentor coming named Jade Graham, who is currently the museum director in Wallowa County, but has a lot of experience in utilizing historic structures for the betterment of the community. Are there any questions?
Can you remind me what times and days that you meet?
We meet the last Wednesday of the month from 6:30 until 8 or 8:30, depending on the agenda. And we have been meeting at Conundrum House, which belongs to Adrian Fritz, who is a member. You've already met her today, because it's quite frankly easier because this building locks at 5 and making the arrangements gets a little bit tricky. And I also want to point out that one of the members of our commission is a professor at OSU with a lot of expertise in woodworking. She also has been able to teach a woodworking workshop last May and will be part of this preservation and trades program that we are proposing for the future. So that's yet another link we've been able to make, getting a mentor from the SHPO and a physical link with OSU. And if we had a physical link with you, that would just strengthen us tremendously.
So I do have a love of historic structures, and I have served as a liaison to the Rallis HRC in the past. Let me ask this, how much of your meetings do you spend on applications for windows and sheds?
Very little. It depends on what the community wants.
I might have some trauma from the city of Corvallis, but
That was the right answer.
Okay. We get just a handful of proposals from the community right now, because I suspect that in Corvallis, there's a lot more change going on. Anything else?
Oh, I'm happy to see your colorful strategic plan. I am thrilled that we, between the Historic Resources Commission and Community Development and Natural Areas, Parks and Events, now have a focus on making sure that every building has a job, because benign neglect is going to just erode all of those resources. And without interpretation and community support, they will not remain resources. So I applaud the work that you're doing. I'm very grateful. And I love the partnerships that you're developing in the community.
Thank you very much. We keep building.
Yes.
And the community itself is building. And I would like to give a shout out to the Tarweed School, because they've done a tremendous job this year and of course intend to continue. And we hope to partner with maybe the school formally, maybe some of their skilled artisans and artists. That's yet in the planning stage.
Are you volunteering, Commissioner, or
Does
do you want to get this taken care of
Yes.
soon?
Yes, that's lovely.
thoughts? Is there anyone else with a burning desire?
I've had a great interest since I've come to the county, but I am on the waning limb of my volunteering, so I'm not going to step up.
You need a motion?
I will move that we appoint Commissioner Wise to be the liaison to the Historic Resources Commission for Benton County.
I will second that.
You know what? So what I meant to do is check my calendar and just make sure I didn't have any recurring issues on the last day. Let's see. Just Hope Board, which is earlier, so. Good.
Is this the fourth Wednesday or the last Wednesday?
It's the last Wednesday.
So sometimes that could be the fifth.
Right,
Oh,
right, exactly. And we probably will not meet in December.
Awesome.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Commissioners, and we look forward, Commissioner Weiss, to seeing you at our next meeting,
Thank you.
which is next week.
All right. All right, next up is 8.3 Media Relations Policy Update and Approval. Corey Grogan.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Appreciate the opportunity to present this. So this should be a fairly short briefing, I think, because I've presented this to you all already, so you are familiar with it. But this is the official approval for our media relations and strategic communications policy. So as a kind of a recap, we've gone through our policy process, which is I coordinated updates with the Policy Oversight Committee. That was presented at a leadership meeting, which you all were at. And then there was a 10-day staff review as part of our process. And after that staff review, I'm now presenting it to you all here for final approval. So just to run through it real quick, there was a title change. It was just our media policy, and we changed that to media relations and strategic communications because it covers more than just media. Minor change to the narrative at the beginning, which doesn't really drastically change anything. I just wanted it to read a little bit differently. We added info about PIO being responsible for media outreach. So we talked about how we handled media inquiries, but we didn't say anything about how it's important for us to conduct our own outreach with media to share all the important information that we have and successes that we have. We updated some info based on our emergency manager's guidance regarding notifications to folks and especially vulnerable populations. We included information about how employees and department directors can coordinate to share information about their successes with media, and also updated how we handle media inquiries and what the best practices are for that. We added a media response schedule so we can guarantee when we'll get back to media based on, knowing that we've received that information, then we have a schedule that we'll guarantee that we get back to media. Added some info again for employees about how they talk to media and encouraging them to coordinate with the PIO before talking to media. And that's to make sure that all the coordination is done, that we're getting back in a timely manner with all the information. And there may be cross-departmental coordination needed as well. So just to ensure that we're coordinating effectively. Some information about when inquiries should be coordinated by the PIO. If there's just no simple answer, there's a bunch of information in here. And also how that relates to departments, because there are exceptions to our media policy for the sheriff's department. The health department does inform us of media inquiries, but they don't always have to go through the PIO for media inquiries. And then there's some information about how you all, which we've gone over, comment as individuals rather than as a board. And also updated information about reporting misinformation, disinformation, and errors in fact, that we should do that, and when we are doing that, how we do it. And also, again, not just reporting about how we're addressing the misinformation, disinformation, and errors in fact, and notifying the media and what we're asking them to do to rectify that. And then there's also some information that we've added in here about our right to refuse media interviews, which is based on if we don't have a general framework, the topic would violate legal matters. We feel that media is not coming at the story with an angle to be objective, and there's some other things in there as well. Media inquiries requiring a lot of time to gather information. We added something in there that should go through the PIO, and PIO would likely funnel that to the county council. Because that could require a public records request. Then there was some minor changes to the wording at the end, which covers more of the strategic communication information about awareness and outreach campaigns, branding, advertising, collateral materials that we use for outreach and to provide information. And there was some updates to our consent policy for photos and videos, which basically states that we need to get consent if it's an individual under the age of 18. If they're over 18, they're in a public space with no reasonable expectation of privacy, then we can use those photo and video materials for outreach. And that's all I have. And I'm just asking for you all to approve this policy that we've been talking about for a while now. Do you have any questions?
I'm assuming that the policy has gone through all of the typical policy hoops, policy review committee, and it was posted internally on the B, et cetera.
Correct, yes. Yeah, we presented it at leadership meeting. It was posted on the beat for a 10-day staff review. And this is the final step.
Thank you. I think it has come a long ways, and it looks like a really solid document.
Oh, great, thank you.
Well, appreciate the effort, and I think it's probably more critical than ever that we speak with one voice and when we put information out that it's clear and correct. So I think this defining what our policies are is important. And I remember several conversations about media requests for information and having a clear policy, what we can do and what we can't do. I think that's probably a work in progress, or it's not like we can just put that out there and put our hands together and say, well, that one's done. But I think that is important, that we're not just winging it and, oh, you call it 4:30 and need something for today's edition or tomorrow's edition, and well, depending on the nature of the request, that may not be reasonable. And so making it clear what we can and can't do is important these days.
Yeah, thank you for that. And certainly we value our partnerships with media and understand how important that is for getting information out and helping us be transparent and telling our story. So I'm very, very happy to support the mission.
Well, I think this goes into our website redesign and just trying to get the information out and make sure that when we put something out that it's accurate, so we're seen as a good source of information, whether it's on a flood or something from the sheriff's office, that it's accurate. So appreciate your help in that effort.
And I'll just piggyback on what everyone else has said. Yeah, clear expectations on both sides can only help, avoid misunderstandings and hopefully continue to build our relationships with our media partners. So thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
I would move to approve the media relations and strategic communications policy.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Corey. What do we do? Well, I think next up, if possible, we'll go to 9.1 broadband action team update, funding and contract proposal. Is Adam Lortz with us?
I don't see him online.
Or Rachel Maddock Hughes?
Negative.
Well then, we will take a 10-minute break, come back at 11 and have the public hearing on the Adair Village UGB boundary change. See you at 11. We are resuming our board meeting, and next up is a public hearing. In the matter of the first reading of ordinance 2023-0320, amending the Benton County Comprehensive Plan and zoning map regarding the Adair Village urban growth boundary. And I have Darren start and then ask for if there's any public comment. Okay. Okay. All right. Take it away, Darren.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you. This will be a quick staff report. Just to kind of jog our memory, on September 5th, 2023, you approved a small amendment to the Adair Village urban growth boundary containing 0.12 acres. As I think you remarked, Mr. Chair, it's a little over 4,000 square feet. Today's action asks you to enact an ordinance that formally amends the boundary, which corrects a mapping error from the 2022 urban growth boundary amendment. So if you're confused, it's okay. This is really just the correction of an error. The analysis and justification, all the data and reporting to support this urban growth boundary expansion actually happened in a prior action, and this just corrects an unfortunate oversight to the map. So I think the ordinance tells you everything you need to know about it, but your options for today are either to conduct the first reading, or if you feel it's more appropriate, send us back to make corrections and we'll bring it back to you. But otherwise, today's first reading will, if you choose to conduct the first reading today, then that would set up a second reading on October 3rd, and the ordinance would take effect then on November 3rd, 2023.
All right, thank you. And now's the time for any members of the public that wish to comment on this matter. Are there any members of the public joining us online that wish to comment? Hearing none. Read the ordinance.
No, and I just want to clarify for the board and for the record that I missed this 2 weeks ago. It probably would have been more streamlined and efficient to have continued the public hearing for the land use hearing that we had last week, 2 weeks ago for the UGB amendment, and then bring this ordinance back to the continued hearing. So it was all within the shell of that notice public hearing. That hearing was closed. We lost that opportunity, which is why we have a public hearing again today for what seems like a bit of redundancy. So I apologize to the board for that. I didn't catch it. But as to your specific question, now the process is to, nobody's offered any public comment. So you close a public hearing and it comes back to the board for deliberation. And if you so choose, a motion.
Okay. Hearing no public comments, I will close the public hearing and the commissioners will deliberate on the ordinance.
I would move to enact ordinance number 2023-0320, amending the Adair Village urban growth boundary and to conduct a first reading of the ordinance.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. First reading.
All right. For the Board of Commissioners of Benton County, State of Oregon, in the matter of amending the Benton County Comprehensive Plan and zoning map regarding the Adair Village urban growth boundary, ordinance number 2023-0320. Now therefore, the Board of County Commissioners of Benton County ordains as follows. Part 1, short title, amendments to the Benton County Comprehensive Plan and zoning map regarding the Adair Village urban growth boundary. And as Darren noted, this will come back to you for a second reading in 2 weeks. That second reading is not a public hearing. It just gets placed under old business on the calendar. So it'll be pretty straightforward and very familiar to you by that time.
All right, so that takes care of that. Till 2 weeks from now.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm pretty excited about that. All right, next up, 9.1 broadband. Thanks, Darren. Broadband action team update, funding and contract proposal, Adam Lords, and there's Rachel Maddock Hughes.
Hi there, commissioners. Nice to see you all again. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you, and I think fairly soon we'll be able to see all of your face. Oh,
Okay.
Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, Adam. Did you want to kick this off, Adam, or do you want me to jump in?
Yes, please. I think it'd be helpful to catch everybody up to where we're at now, and then I'll turn it over to you. Does that sound good?
Okay, great. I can hardly hear you, but I don't know if that's my volume or yours, but
That's probably me. There we go.
okay.
That's
Well,
better. All right.
commissioners, it's lovely to see you. I also have my colleague, Joe Fresnell on the phone. He has about 30 years of telecommunications experience. So I thought that if you had some more technical questions today, that he would be here to be able to answer those questions for you. Our team has been growing as we've been able to provide more services to our region and around the state. We're here today because, as you guys know, the Broadband Action Team, I think, is really important for our region in terms of helping our region secure the proportional amount of funding that's coming down to the state. There is almost, what are we at, $800–900 million from different various funds, and it's really important that we secure that funding. Just a little bit of history to recap again. So when we started this Broadband Action Team, Lincoln County took on the funding for it, which was amazing. And then that baton passed to Lynn County. And we've been talking about for a while the idea of having all of the counties buy into this. I do have the other counties on board for supporting the Broadband Action Team. But essentially, if you could go ahead to the next slide, Adam, as well. Essentially, what is before you today is a contract to deepen the services that our team is going to provide through the Broadband Action Team, and to continue to make sure that you guys get the funding that our region needs. Over the past couple of years, we've helped secure the funding that got you all the feasibility studies and the work with Celerity that has been so important. I've been able to advocate on behalf of rural communities in particular, and advocate with the Oregon Broadband Office and provide a critical liaison between the Oregon Broadband Office and our region. What's really next is taking the information that has come out of the feasibility study and turning that into projects and finding the partnerships and having the conversations about how do we tee up communities and partners to go after this money. And that is really where the rubber hits the road. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Adam. So, we're proposing that with this new contract, it is a continuation and a deepening of our work for the Broadband Action Team. We'll work with the 4 counties to coordinate regional projects, but also county-specific projects, whatever the recommendations are coming out of the feasibility studies that are being completed right now. We'll make sure to really put together projects that are going to be not just eligible, but competitive for the various different funding opportunities that are coming down the road. We can provide additional grant writing services as well. We'll be developing more in-depth monthly reports and presentations for the elected officials, as well as other broadband community champions. And the other thing too that I want to just say is that the Broadband Action Team has an important role, not just to play in infrastructure rollout, but also in supporting digital equity and inclusion. Digital equity and inclusion as you know, as that funding also comes out. So I know that's a lot of information all at once, and I'm sure that you guys have questions. I know that the last slide that I had in the presentation is kind of a list of the funding opportunities. Adam, if you want to slide through there. So just to recap really quickly, so the first tranche of funding that is going to be coming down the pike is the Broadband Technical Assistance Program, or BTAP. That money is coming from the Universal Service Fund, and it's about $6.5 million. That is set to open up, the funding opportunity will open up in the next 2 months. There's a lot of building of the plane while flying it with these funding opportunities, and we don't have a lot of the final details yet. That's because the Broadband Office is still working on these programs. The Broadband Technical Assistance Program, or BTAP, what we're recommending is to apply for, and we're recommending this to broadband action teams across the state because we oversee several and we work with the leadership of the rest of the broadband action teams, but is to fund the folks, contractors or staff who help with the broadband conversation. So that could be us, that could be other people on your staff. Get a rapid design study, which you all already have through the work with Celerity, and then get grant writing support. So I see this initial contract with the 4 different counties being able to be supplemented or potentially even 100% paid for through the BTAP program down the road. The next funding source is the Broadband Deployment Program, or BDP. That's $157 million, and that is ARPA funding. That is infrastructure funding. So having the rapid design studies that you all got through the work with Celerity is going to really help you with applying for all sources of funding, but the first one will be this BDP program. As a quick note, the Celerity subcontracted out to a company that we also subcontract out to with the rapid design studies. So we're extremely familiar with the rapid design studies as a tool for securing funding. And so we can help with the ongoing implementation of that tool. It's like a living tool that you can actually, you know, program in different funding application guidelines and see what projects will cost, et cetera. The big chunk of funding is the BEAD program, or the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment program, and that is about $688 million. That money is not going to become available until late 2024, early 2025. So the Oregon Broadband Office is still in the process of going through putting together the program, putting together the guidelines, getting approval from Treasury, getting approval from NTIA, et cetera. So that is something important to note. The state is also supposed to receive $50 million in Digital Equity Act funding, and that's around digital equity and inclusion. And again, that will be available, that's a little typo in there, sorry, sometime mid-2024. We don't know what that's going to look like, how much work the state is going to be doing, what kind of grants will be available, but this is around stuff and things that is not infrastructure. So this is like, do people have the right devices? Do people understand how to use the tools on the internet to, you know, to serve their educational, social, or health needs? So that is really the state of funding right now. It's a little bit of hurry up and wait, but it will start hitting at the end of this year, so in the next couple of months. So our goal really with this proposal is to get all of the counties to buy in to support a deepened broadband action team engagement and services on our part, and move the projects forward that are going to be identified through the rapid design study or the feasibility studies. That's a lot of information all at once. Broadband these days is like drinking from the fire hose, so.
Any questions, commissioners? I think they asked today, as a 4-part member of the broadband action team, we're each being asked to contribute $20,000 in the contract. Just so you're aware, the other partners are Lincoln, Lynn, and Lane.
Correct.
And I do support signing on to this contract. I think it's important work to bridge where we are now for the next 3, 6, 9 months until we have a better idea on how we can use BTAP funding, and also to tail on the efforts that we've made with Celerity through the Rapid Design Study and a couple of grant applications they're helping us with. Just to sort of round out some other comments around our efforts in broadband, just so you guys know, Pioneer Tel, which is a ISP in the area, has been awarded 2 USD Reconnect grants. So those are taking a nice chunk out of Benton County's needs for broadband expansion. But the tool that Rachel is describing that is being delivered to us by Celerity really gives us a good view, breaks down the data that we collected through our internet speed tests that we try to get the public to engage in, but also the mapping that we brought in from the FCC. All that information is combined into this tool to give us a really good idea of how we can approach improving broadband access across the county. There are different levels of recommendations that come out of that tool, and I'll be scheduling a meetings very soon. We meet again Friday to talk about some of these details. I'll be scheduling a meeting with the board soon to walk through that report, talk a little bit more about what those recommendations are. Just to give you an idea, a full build out of fiber to all known holes or gaps across the county is something like a $50 million investment. The report, though, their recommendation is going to fall somewhere well below that, a fraction of that, as a mix of building out fiber and fixed wireless. So a lot more details to come. I just want to kind of fill some of the gaps in knowledge here. But I do think that supporting this contract, getting Rural Prosperity to help us bridge between where the project is ending now and when funding will become available will be really important. It's also worth mentioning that it's going to be important for the county to engage a task force to communicate with ISPs, with our public, with others in the community to help make decisions about which projects we approach. So that's going to be something we also will leverage Rural Prosperity for, is building those relationships, setting up those efforts. So anyway, any questions?
I have a couple questions. Can you clarify my understanding? So do we currently have a contract that is just run out and this is moving forward the second contract, or it's a new?
Rachel, you want to answer that one?
Absolutely, Commissioner. Currently, and I should have actually prefaced this by, you guys all probably know us as Sequoia Consulting. We recently rebranded to Rural Prosperity Partners because we think it tells the story of what we do a little bit better. So just for any confusion there, my apologies. So we currently do not have a contract for the Broadband Action Team with Benton County. Right now, Lynn County has been shouldering all of the costs for about 2 years, 18 months. And before that, Lincoln County was shouldering the cost. So we've had a contract with Lincoln, then with Lynn. And so what this is going to be is a new contract where I'm going to work with each of the counties to have a $20,000 contract to support the Broadband Action Team over the course of a year. And again, I do believe that we can apply for BTAP funding in the future to do more down the road to supplement that cost as well. Because this is going to be, honestly, this is a 3 to 5 year window for broadband funding and broadband infrastructure deployment projects, at least, possibly even longer on the deployment and build out. So it is, I do currently have a contract with Benton County for grant writing, but that is a separate service.
Okay, thank you. And have you already secured contracts with the other counties?
I have secured contracts with Lincoln County, Lane Council of Governments, their coordinating entities down there, and I'm in conversation with Lynn County. But I think anything that takes the burden off just them, they're going to say yes to. So
sure. And then maybe, so for the $20,000, how is it a length of time or just a scope of work? What do we get for that? Is it a year or just
Correct. It's a year's worth of services, and some of them are summarized in the in the earlier slide there, Adam. And Adam has a full copy of the proposal as well. And I believe that should probably be in your packet.
Yes, thank you. Just want to clarify my understanding. And then question for staff. Is this something that we budgeted for in the budget, or where would this money come from?
Thanks, Commissioner Wise. Yes, we have the dollars outlined for this. There was a contribution actually last biennium. I know Rachel was saying that other counties, but we were also asked to contribute to, I thought it was Lincoln County that did the fiscal component last time. Is that right, Adam?
Yeah, I think you may be referring to help the match funding we were providing for the feasibility study.
Okay.
So slightly
That's
different.
separate. That's separate from our contract. That was for the feasibility study project with EDA. Yep.
Yeah, so those particular dollars, though, that were dedicated for that are dollars that were built into the budget, knowing that there would probably be some form of need down the road.
And to my mind, this is perfect use of those economic development lottery dollars that we do have a small kitty of. So this is a project that's been a long time in development, and I'm particularly interested in the presentation that Adam, you say you're going to be making coming up soon about the results of the Solarity Design Study and thinking about the universe of projects, because it's hard to think about the dollars without knowing the specifics of what we might be able to do and where we might be competitive. I know that we're more fortunate than many counties in having fewer gaps, but the other thing that would really be helpful is enrichment of service in places. And I don't know how well we're going to be able to reach into that goal, but I look forward to that presentation, and I'm in support of continuing our work with the Broadband Action Team.
Commissioner, and one thing I'd like to really quickly point out about how the rapid design study is really critical. And it's also really critical to have a local partner who also understands this, because in the rapid design study process, our team was able to also provide more feedback on some of the initial work that Solarity had put together, and they made some really significant adjustments based on our input so that the rapid design study is as accurate as possible. So
that's great.
Couple questions. I'll start with an easy one. Vance, have you looked at the contract? And
I apologize.
You need.
I don't think I have.
It'd be in the packet. I haven't. I don't think I routed that to you specifically, Vance. I apologize.
Not a problem. We rest assured, Adam gets me these things before they circulate for anybody's approval. So whether I see it now or tomorrow, doesn't make a whole lot of difference, but no, I have not seen it. And just as an aside, as Rachel was going through the timeline for this, I just want to note for the record that this was a topic, rural broadband project, that Linda Modrell kicked off for the Benton County Commissioners probably 9 years ago. So it is gratifying to see it actually bearing fruit, albeit 9 years later.
I guess that's ties in with my next question, or maybe more of a comment. Just we've been talking about this since I've been on the board almost 5 years, and it's a little confusing. Well, what's going on, and I think it'd be helpful to have more regular reports on what we've done and what's on the list next. I see the Pioneer telephone people out there putting a big wire up, and that's fiber and all out. And I think they got a $24 million grant. And how do various efforts fit together?
Yeah, they've been awarded a second one now too.
What's that?
They've been awarded a second grant now too.
Okay. go Pioneer. Yeah, but just lots of information and large dollars floating around and just, well, where are we at? And I think this is a worthwhile discussion and get a contract and keep things moving forward in Benton County. But just when there is information, I guess I'd like to be more informed on what's going on.
Sure, absolutely, Commissioner. So we've been awaiting the report, the final report from Celerity to get this on the agenda. At that time, I'll provide a timeline to keep you guys involved. One thing that's been interesting just from my seat has been just how much change there's been over the couple of years. We thought we knew how things were going to go. It changed completely. We've rebuilt the broadband office in the Oregon to funnel funds differently. A lot of things have really changed throughout the process. So it's been, from my end, hard to keep my hand on the tail of the dragon as well. But yeah, I'll definitely provide sort of a recap. Hope you guys understand where we are, how we got here, and then we'll dive into the report, which will have a lot of detail about what you're asking about.
Well, I remember it wasn't too long ago when the state broadband office was one person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Commissioner, if I may just jump in to tag team with Adam, is that getting these rapid design studies, or what some folks are calling the feasibility studies, is going to give you a lot more concrete information. And so then the conversation really becomes a question around, so for the identified gap areas, what role does the county or local municipalities want to play in helping to meet those gaps? And so there's kind of 3 buckets of ways that you can do this around public-private partnerships. So the least heavy lift is that internet service providers like Pioneer can come to the county or municipality and ask for a letter of support, because community engagement and community support gets extra points on most of these funding applications. The next kind of middle path is for the county to look at the rapid design study results and say, hey, here are the areas that we want to have addressed, and you can put out a request for qualifications from ISP partners who you might then work with to either, you can provide a letter of support, but also potentially public funding. Or there's the whole, hey, we've decided we want to own a part of the infrastructure, whether it's middle mile, but we give it over to a partner. And so the county is going to be the applicant for this funding. So the rapid design study will give you the nuanced detail, and with us to be able to help you guys figure out what next steps are. The procurement will depend on really also, are there public dollars involved in supporting these efforts and applications? I know match is always a question for a lot of communities. So yeah, but the rapid design study is really your key for moving forward. One thing, and you'll see more of this when Adam pulls together the team, but the rapid design study is great because what it will show you is it'll also show you, okay, here's a gap area. And then it's going to suggest, here are the partners, the ISPs in that area that we should be talking to, because a lot of times the areas that are gaps are adjacent to areas that already have service. And so it can be a conversation with an internet service provider of like, hey, what's it going to take for you to continue to bring service over to this area? And the rapid design study will also tell you at a glance, which of your internet service providers are providing the quality of service that you want to support. So it gives you an enormous amount of detail, and it is an incredibly useful tool. And Adam, I'd be happy to be on that call when you guys all schedule it, because we work with the group that puts this together on a regular basis. We have contracts with them in Josephine and Harney County and a number of others as well. So.
Okay, any other questions?
I guess if we make a motion to approve this, that still gives Vance the ability to go over the contract. Yeah.
I would entertain a motion on page 71.
I move to approve Benton County entering into a contract with the Rural Prosperity Partners LLC to facilitate the broadband action team and assist in leading to quality outcomes of improved internet access for our community with the following costs. The fees for services are one broadband action team, 4 counties, $80,000, $20,000 from each county, with each county directly contracting with Rural Prosperity Partners. And so we're choosing option 1, right? So I don't read option 2. Is that, am I understanding that correctly? Okay.
Second.
Sorry.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Sorry.
carries.
Sorry, these microphones are just weird.
Thank you very much, commissioners, and I look forward to meeting with you and talking more.
Well, this is exciting because I know things are going on out there and it's just hasn't been real clear what the county's role is or should be. So looking forward to more information.
Great, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Adam and Rachel. Next up, other. Do we have any other business that we need to go over this morning? Hearing none. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.